Howdy there folks, this is Lapidary Dave. While filming at the 22nd Street show, I had the great pleasure of meeting one of my most favorite artists and YouTube content creators, Justin K. Prim, from the World of Faceting Machine series. Make sure to hop on over to his YouTube channel and subscribe. Justin K. Prim is the name of the channel. Even if you don't facet yourself, the videos are just totally stunning, very high quality, many of which, or all of which perhaps, he films while on his travels, where he actually gets to meet these people and use these machines. And some of the videos are about more than just faceting. I highly recommend it. I absolutely love this guy. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video, and if you're at the 22nd Street show, make sure to go visit him. Hope you enjoy.
Cabbing's cool though, you know, the thing I like about the cab is, you know, if you have a really fine material, which I guess most people don't cab fine material, but they used to, you know, if you see like a cabochon emerald, it's like glowing, you know, whereas a faceted stone shines, but a good emerald, or a good cab glows, and you know, they're just different. I was talking to somebody the other day. This dude is like dealing in super high-end stones, like rubies and, you know, like super expensive emeralds and everything. And he was talking about, like, he had, I think it was a Padparaja sapphire, and we were talking about, he had it in the rough, and I was like, I was just kind of hypothetically like, what if it was cab? And he was like, GIA won't give Padparaja certification on cabs, only on faceted stones.
Oh my.
And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Because it's a specific color, and I guess the reflection pattern is part of how they judge the color, and they can't judge it in the cab or something. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, that's pretty okay. So then, okay, I did my 4 sides already before you got here. I got my table. Now, before I flip the stone upside down, I just want to polish the 4 sides so that they're already polished up. This is going to be the first stone I actually finished, because when I got this machine yesterday, the handpiece was off balance and it was giving me a crooked stone. So,
oh no.
So I spent a couple of hours yesterday and today just rebalancing it with this stone.
It's good to go now.
Yeah, now it's good. So I'm just going to come down, bare minimum. I don't need to do too much, just enough to get it shiny. That's already done. And then, yeah, just gonna do 4 sides quickly. And then maybe you'll get a kick out of my transfer technique, because, you know, we're cutting table first. You guys are normally cutting pavilion first. We do table first. And partially, one of the reasons why we like to do this, or at least one of the benefits, does not really have anything to do with why we do it, but one of the benefits is we don't need a transfer block to transfer. I can just transfer directly from the stone to the dock. Hold on, let me just get this last side finished. Yeah, there we go. Okay, 4 sides polished. And you can see it's looking pretty shiny. There's an inclusion in the middle of the stone. It's like a crack right there. But this is just for fun, so I don't really care. So here's my transfer technique. So normally what you guys would do now is you'll take this, you'll put in your transfer block, right? You'll take another dop, maybe you glue it or whatever you do. For me, I'm going to completely take it off the dop. And so whenever I do my transfer, I can almost do it from scratch. So I'm just heating it up, and then I can basically use my tweezers and pull the wax back a little bit, so I save the wax for the next stone. And then once most of it's off, you can pretty much just pull it off. And while it's still hot, I'll try to scrape some wax up. Normally I would drop this in the acetone, but I didn't really prep the acetone yet, so I'm going to skip that step. And so now, wait, I need acetone. Hold on, I got to clean the dots.
If you don't mind me asking while you do that, for your jet video, did you go to England?
Yeah, and you know that lady's here right now.
Really?
Sarah Steele.
Yo.
She's doing a talk. Ooh, that stinks. She's doing a talk at the AGTA show. I don't know when, maybe Saturday, maybe Friday, I can't remember. She's great. You should go check her out. Whitby, man, that's great too. You ever been over there?
No.
It's England's spookiest city. It's where Dracula was written.
Oh, dang. Does it feel spooky?
Yeah, because it's right on the coast and it's really foggy all the time. And there's like a hill with this destroyed cathedral. So there is like kind of a spooky vibe. And then you kind of know that Dracula was written there. After I went there, I actually went back and reread, or whatever, read Dracula, because I wanted to see the references. And Dracula, you know, he's like coming off of a boat, and the boat goes in, it's like a boat wreck in Whitby. The coffin goes on the shore. Dracula's inside the coffin in Whitby, and then he goes down to London later in the story. But it's like, wow, Whitby is the center point of the Dracula story.
When is your talk, brother?
I'm doing one on Wednesday at 9 a.m. at AGTA.
Where's that at?
The Civic Center.
Cool, I'm gonna be there.
It's free. Anyone can go in it. The AGTA show is not open to the public, but the talks and the upstairs part is. Okay, so now I needed to clean the dock. So now I've got my flat dock, and I'm just cleaning some old glue off of it because I used this one before. And just to speed it up a little bit, I just like to scrape it. Make sure. If there's any glue on here, it will really mess up the transfer and it probably won't stick right. So I gotta make sure it's really clean. Yeah, you know, like anything, if you don't get a good transfer, everything's gonna be messed up. I went to England earlier this year, and I was like kind of studying a little bit with these British guys, these like 70.
The older gentleman with the hand cranks, right?
You know, they only use wax for both sides, and when they transfer the stone, they do it the same way I do. They take the whole stone off, so it's clean like this. But then for us, I'm gonna glue the table onto the top, so there's like no chance that it's gonna be crooked. I just have to make sure it's centered. But for them, they put it into wax, and they sit there and and I'm just like, dude, this is impossible. How can you look at the stone in the wax and it's all, you know, whatever, but their eye is so good. They spend 10 years just perfectly getting their dopping eye. I can't do that though.
Do they ever take on apprentices?
I tried to do it, actually. They said no. I was like, can I come for 2 months? They said no. I was like, well, can I come once a week for 2 months? And they said, okay, we'll talk. Okay, so I got my super glue, I got my stone, I got my clean dop. I'm just gonna smear it around. Table's on there, so I know it's straight. Now I just have to look at my girdle and make sure that I put it in the center. And side view though is not that helpful. I really had to look from this point of view. So if I line up the corners of the stone with the ring, I can kind of use my optical effect and just make sure that it's centered, and yeah. And so I like this glue because it dries in about 5 minutes, whereas the kind of glue that I used to use when I lived in America takes like an hour to dry, and then, you know, you start to get impatient, and then you usually will start cutting before it's really dry, and then it pops off and you have to do the whole thing over again. This one dries in 5 minutes, so it's really handy, especially for school. You know, with the students, we can't wait an hour because, like, you know, they're only there for 7 hours a day, so we have to get things done quickly. So this glue really helps. I don't know if you can find it here, but it's called Uhu Super. And it has to be the 7 gram size. The 3 gram size are in the bigger sizes. They're not the same recipe or something. They don't stick right. But the 7 gram, it works. So yeah, now I just have to leave that sit for 5 minutes, and it's gonna be ready to go. So while I'm waiting, I can clean up my station. I can switch my laps. I'll go back to my cutting laps because I'm gonna be cutting the second side. So. And normally I don't double stack the laps like this. It's just these ones are so thin that it doesn't tighten all the way. So I need like a washer, and I don't have it. So then cutting laps, for the school we're just using these simple toppers because, you know, you don't really want to buy a really expensive lap and then have your student just like gouge a hole in it. These ones are these are 15 bucks, and so far they have lasted us about 1 year. Like after the first year of the school, I changed them all because they were starting to get worn out. But 1 year of life for $15 is pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
And if you're using them professionally and making money on your job, then that's a pretty good, you know, cheap business expense. You know, it's a low overhead. So in the class, it's 2 weeks, and we do 4 projects. So this is basically the 3 stones that we do. These are synthetics, but the ones we do in class are natural. We do a round brilliant as the first stone. It's usually in blue topaz. Second stone is square step cut. We usually do it in garnet. Third stone is a mixed cut oval. This is the hardest one we do. Lately we've been doing it in Oregon Sunstone because I have it, but that one changes just depending on what stone I have. So these are the 3 that we cut from rough. Then for the final project, we do the recut. So we take a Portuguese cut, just something that it's a synthetic corundum that I get in Chinatown. This is what it looks like when we start. No, sorry, that's what it looks like when we're done. So when we begin, it's shiny, but it has a window. It's usually not a perfect oval shape. The proportions of the table or the bottom are really big and bulky, and usually the polishing and the meat points are not as good as we'd like them to be. So then we take this stone, we teach them how to, you know, systematically recut the entire stone to be this sort of classic mixed cut oval, and you can see the amount of light coming back is better, the saturation gets deeper, we can make the perfect shape, the meat points will be perfect, the polishing will be perfect. So then we basically take a commercial cut stone, turn it into a well cut, precision cut stone, you know, of course depending on the skill of the student, but they almost always come out looking incredible. I always make them do before and after photos because it's so shocking as how much they change, you know. These ones are obviously not the same stone, so it's not as impressive.
But it's easy to see.
Yeah. So yeah, we do 4 stones in 2 weeks, which I think is quite quick because.
How long is the class?
2 weeks. And let me show you one more thing that I think you'll appreciate. So these 2 are basically the first 2 types of cuts. So this is point cut and table cut. So these would have been popular in like the 1300s and the 1400s, like really at the beginning of faceting, whenever they didn't really have technology to do that yet. This would have been the natural diamond uncut. So this is how, you know, if you get an octahedral diamond, this is pretty much what it looks like before it's cut. So they can just put this directly into a setting. They don't need to cut or polish it. But then once they started to figure out that they could do that, chop the top off, and you know, this one is just...
Back in the day, did they cut it, or did you think that did they like brood it?
No, I think at first they just would cleave it, like, because you can actually cleave a stone just with a hammer and a chisel, basically. I mean, you can cleave a diamond that way. If you just make a groove line in the right place, one tap, it splits perfectly along a straight line. So I think they wouldn't even have polished it. They would have just kept it that way. But then, so as they start learning how to facet and, you know, developing techniques, we see, you know, going into the 1400s, 1500s, 1700s is when they start doing the kind of the first brilliant cuts, where they've got, you know, star facets, main facets, and girdle facets. And then they learn how to do brooding, so they can rub 2 diamonds together and make a circle, which they didn't know how to do that before the 1800s. And then finally in the 1900s, it becomes, you know, the sort of ideal diamond which we have today, which is, you know, the standard 57 facet, super brilliant. So yeah, it's kind of like very, you know, when I do it in the class, I have like a slide for each one and showing the angles they use and kind of what was cool about it in that time. But it's pretty linear, like you can really see step by step when you really look at the pattern how it evolved, and you can kind of understand like, oh, this cut evolved because they were obviously, you know, fixing broken, you know, if you have a square stone and you break the corner off, if you just flatten the corner, it adds 2 more facets, you've created a new design. And that's pretty much how they develop, some of them like that. And then some of them just, you know, new technology. They can do round stones and stuff like that. But I love this set. It's so cool, and it's...
Did you cut them all yourself?
No, I cut a few of them. The other teacher cut most of them because we have 2 teachers, and I was mostly doing like I wrote the class, but all the samples the other guy did. So while I was writing and doing the PowerPoints, he was spending, you know, 3 or 4 months just cutting stones all day.
Oh my.
What's up, Gil? Good, I was just showing off my historical set.
Ooh.
Don't know if I ever showed it to you
I like
before.
this one. No, I did not.
Yeah, how are you doing?